Hello everybody. I'm recording this webinar for the second time. The first time I went over the time limit, so I have to keep this to under 15 minutes. I'm going to be talking fast. If you need to rehear something that I'm talking about, pause the webinar, back it up, listen to it again, take notes. You never know when this stuff's going to appear on a quiz or something. I'm speaking specifically to my Ring 91 class during the summer of 2014. I am probably going to reuse this. So if I'm reusing it in a 92 or a 101 or a whatever I happen to be teaching, or at another college, whatever, make sure you know your assignment, because obviously what I'm talking about here is a Ring 91 assignment. You make the adjustments. I'll hold you accountable for that. Okay, but just about everybody will get some, if you're using MLA format to document a paper, a research in a paper, all of you should be able to get something out of this webinar. So let me get back to my Ring 91 students. Ring 91, as I record this, you guys are drafting your paragraph 1. Some of you will start writing or working on at least the outline for paragraph 2. So we're in progress here. In the webinar about writing paragraph 1, I mentioned that I would do another webinar where I would tell you how to document. What does document means? Documentation mean? It means that you're showing where you get information from. Anytime you take information from another source, whether it's an interview, an article, a website, whether it's a picture, whatever the source is, outside of yourself, you have to document it. And I always say it's better to over document than under document, because the last thing in the world you want to be accused of is plagiarism, bad stuff. That's being accused of stealing something from another source. And in some universities, some colleges, that gets you tossed out of the college. You don't want that, right? So we want to avoid all of that. Again, I say over document instead of under document, and here's why. There used to be a rule that said if something was common knowledge, you didn't need to document it. Well, you tell me, what's common knowledge these days? Because I don't know about you. I use some words sometimes, or I refer to some subject in conversation with other people, and they don't know what I'm talking about. So, it's in my dictionary, it's in my encyclopedia, it was discussed at my college or my school, but it wasn't at theirs. So we don't always know what common knowledge is. So if I were you, I'd document everything, okay? And then let your teacher tell you you don't have to do that. Okay, better safe than sorry. Let's get down to it. There are all kinds of documentation formats. There's Turabian style, Chicago style, American Psychological Association style. There are styles in business and in computers, and you name it. But the one we're going to be talking about in this webinar is called Modern Language Association style, abbreviated MLA. We talked about this earlier because we've also seen another webinar where I talked to you about formatting a document using MLA format, and that's another webinar you need to go look at. Okay, but this is just about documenting research or information taken from another source. Many of you bought your book down in the bookstore. It came with a supplement that has some information in it about this. Some of you didn't, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to suggest that everybody, we'll just get on the same page this way, go to other useful links on our Blackboard site and click, and then go to the Purdue Owl link. And this is kind of a long way into it. You can develop your own shortcuts. Go to Research and Citation. Then they give you your choices. You're going to choose MLA style. And when you get on the MLA style page, choose Formatting and Style. And that gets you where you need to go. And you'll want to bookmark this page, okay? All right, now if you look over to the left of the page, there are all kinds of links here of great interest and really relevant to you. And you need to print some of this stuff out, okay? MLA is 2 steps, what we call in-text citation. Some people call it parenthetical. And then there is the work cited. Okay, 2 steps. If you don't do both steps, you haven't done it right. Did you hear that? 2 steps. Okay. All right. What is the first step? Well, the first step is that parenthetical stuff. So let's go look at some examples here. And, again, I'm going to leave it to you to read all this stuff, but here are some examples. Let's say some guy named Wordsworth, okay? You want to quote him. Okay, so here we go. You can put his name into the sentence. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. There's a direct quotation, and we got that from page 263. Or you can put his name in the parenthetical area. here's his name and here's the page number, so on and so forth. You got different choices there. Okay, so that's the in text. That tells us who the writer is and what page number. If you don't have a writer, you can put down the source, and yeah, there are different ways around all of that. I'm going to leave it to you to read this stuff up here, and they tell you what to do if certain things happen. If they don't cover it, come and see me and I'll try to help you out. So, okay, so I'm really interested in this Wordsworth guy, and you don't tell me what book, where, page 263 of what book? Okay, how do I find that out? Well, I go to your Works Cited page. And a sample of a Works Cited page is right here. I'm going to click. You can see that they are double spaced, these Works Cited pages, and they are arranged in alphabetical order by author's last name. And you can see they demonstrate something called hanging indentation. Instead of having the first line indented, the first line comes to the margin and the other lines are indented, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay. Now in our course, in Ring 91, at least for the summer 2014, I'm only allowing electronic sources, so that kind of is a lucky thing for you, because you're going to be, if you want to know how to create an entry for a Works Cited page for an electronic source, just click on this link that I'm pointing to right now. Clicking. You can read this information here, and as you slide down, you're going to see a whole bunch of models for doing these entries, okay? All right, so that's a quick and dirty on using Purdue Owl. Lots of information there for you for free, all right? What do you have to document? Any quotation, anything that you borrow from anywhere else, like a chart or a picture, or even if you are just borrowing information and putting it in your own words. In other words, even if you are paraphrasing, you still have to document it. Okay, it's not your information, it's not your idea. You have to tell where you got the idea from. Okay, all right, so always better to over document than under document. Now, paragraph 1 for Ring 91. I kind of did like a partial setup of a paragraph, pretending like I'm this student Sam Smith. Here's the top of the page information. I did not create a title. I just put the space for the title there. Remember, you are not allowed to use a tab key or the space bar to indent your title. Go back to the MLA format webinar if you want to know what I'm talking about, because I will find you out, okay? So make sure that you don't do that. You also cannot use your space bar or the tab key to indent the first line of your paragraph. All right, so find out how you're supposed to be doing it. Go back and look at that formatting webinar. But anyway, you can see that the first sentence here follows the rule that I set up, that you have to use that quotation, that definition of education from Wikipedia. So here's the definition. And I created something here, I'm highlighting that for a second, called a frame for the quotation. Frame, like a picture frame. You'll see that it introduces, it smoothly slides the reader into the quotation while also telling us where we got the quotation from, Wikipedia. It's really not a good idea just to throw somebody into a quotation. Okay, so find smooth ways of introducing your quotations, and this is one. Feel free to borrow it. Notice too, back here, here's my parenthetical documentation. Here's the article. I went ahead and did the article. I put that in there. Why? Because Wikipedia has a lot of articles, so it kind of helps the reader narrow it down. So it's education, paragraph 1. Notice that I did not put a period here where the quotation ended, because I'm not done with my sentence yet. I put my period here behind the parenthetical documentation. Then my paragraph goes on from there. I'm about to state my main idea statement, and I'll keep writing. Go back and look at your paragraph requirements to know how to do all of that. Okay, so have I finished yet? No, that's the first step of MLA documentation. I now have to create a Works Cited page. How do I do that? Well, after I'm done with my paragraph, I just use my enter key to move down to the next page. I got to get a clean page here. Okay, here we are. I type the words Works Cited. I'm going to click on my centering icon. I'm typing. Oh, it didn't work. I'm going to have to move it over. Okay, let me see why that didn't. Okay, here we go. There, now it's centered. You can see it now on the screen. And what I have to do now, I'm going to turn my centering icon off. It takes me over here. I'm now going to, and I think the problem here is that something happened with my margin. I just fixed it. Okay, now I'm going to go up to paragraph where it says indentation. Make sure both of these things are set on 0. And then under special, I'm going to choose hanging, because that will move my lines in correctly by ½ inch, and not the first line of each entry. Remember when we looked at that Works Cited page? It's not the first line of each entry that we indent ½ inch. we do every other line of the entry. So I'm ready to do hanging indentation. Now, what do I put here? Well, lucky you, Wikipedia gives you a shortcut. And that shortcut is, let me see where it is. Here is the Wikipedia. Let me go back one. This is the Wikipedia article on education. Slide down to where it says Tools. Click on Cite this page. Slide down to MLA Style. Copy. Come back to your Works Cited page. Paste. Change, make sure that you're on Times New Roman 12 point. And there you go. Okay, so not every article or whatever will give you a shortcut like that. Some of these you're going to have to create your own. Go back to Purdue Owl and see how to do that. But thankfully Wikipedia gave me that shortcut, so there it is. Okay, that's what everybody will have on their Works Cited page. I just showed you where to find it. I just showed you how to document it, and I also showed you how to do in-text documentation. So please make sure that you understand all of this and that I see you following those 2 steps from here on out. Thank you. Talk to you soon.